Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 25, Concepts of Difference and Inequality. And our topic is Natural and Social Inequality. Interest in the subject of the origin and the foundation of inequality in society may be traced to the times of Rousseau. He explained that equality prevailed so long as people remained content with their way of life, one in which they wore clothes of animal hides, adorned their bodies with feathers and shells, and confined themselves to the activities that each person could perform individually. From the time one person began to stand in need of help of another, when one person began to collect provisions, work became inevitable and equality in relationship disappeared. Rousseau identified two kinds of inequality among people: natural or physical inequality, referring to difference of age, health, bodily strength, and mental abilities. And the second one is moral or political inequality, referring to differences in privileges that are established or authorized by the consent of people themselves, for example, power and honor. Trinquelly accepted the inequality imposed by nature on people was difficult to get rid of, and that equality remained a cherished ideal. He distinguished between the aristocratic society, which was characterized by rigid hierarchy of the states or caste, and democratic society, which was characterized by mobility of individuals across classes. Society in Europe prior to the 19th century was aristocratic. Society in America in the first half of the 19th century was democratic in character. Tranquilly contrast between the aristocratic and the democratic societies stretched beyond their political organization to incorporate their social distinctions, religious experiences, and aesthetic sensibilities. Despite the fact that the Tranquilly belonged to aristocratic society, he was impressed with egalitarianism, or the principle of equality pervading different dimensions of life. He firmly believed that someday Europe and the rest of the world would be under the cover of equality. He agreed that the Western civilization did, in principle, recognize equality even though its own institutions were hierarchical. Later, Bartley developed Tranquilly idea that all systems are mixed and that in real situations pure hierarchy or equality does not exist. What exists, however, is moving equilibrium between incompatible and ever-varying forces. Bartley proposed a distinction between the harmonic system, in which society is divided into groups that are hierarchically placed and the ordering is considered to appropriate, and disharmonic system, in which there is no consistency between the order in which groups are arranged and the natural scheme of things. That is, there is a discrepancy between the existential and the normative order. He explained the disharmonic system in terms of one which upholds equality as an ideal but practices inequality. In Berkeley's own words, the great paradox of the modern world is that everywhere men attach themselves to the principles of equality, and everywhere in their own lives as well as in the lives of others, they encounter the presence of inequality. The more strongly they attach themselves to the principles or ideologies of equality, the more oppressive the reality becomes. We often encounter natural inequality in terms of differences in the capacities in potential, abilities bestowed on individuals by nature that make for unequal endowment of opportunities available to them. Batley writes, to an anthropologist for whom the variety of cultures has a central place in the human scheme of things, it would appear that the idea of natural inequality is inherently ambiguous. If not a contradiction in terms, natural nature presents us only the differences or potential differences. With the human beings, these differences do not become inequalities unless and until they are selected, marked out, and evaluated by processes that are cultural and not natural. In other words, differences become inequalities only with the application of scales, and the scales with which we are concerned in talking about inequalities in a social context are not given to us by nature, but culturally constructed by particular human beings under particular historical conditions. Consider the example of the two children, one who is blind by birth and the other who has normal vision. The two children are endowed with unequal abilities that make them perform the same task with unequal precision. So long as we do not evaluate the performance of two children and judge their abilities, there is no perception of inequality, natural or social. The two children are said to be differently endowed by nature. Natural inequality between them is perceived when we assess their performance. When we then refer to natural inequality to mean inequality meted out by nature itself. Natural inequality becomes the basis of providing opportunities and resources, providing privileges and discriminations that form the groundwork of social inequality. One example of social inequality is unfolded in division of labor, which is accompanied with inequality in status and power. Simplistically viewed, division of labor corresponds with the social differentiation. Some positions are held in esteem while are associated with subjugation. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning Podcast.